Hi, so I'm the owner of a website called carbant.com. I'm particularly focusing this video on hybrids and why they're more efficient than your traditional normal engine. So recently I was talking to someone and they were claiming that self-charging hybrids are a con because surely you're just using petrol from your engine to charge a battery. So that's just going to use the same amount of petrol as if you didn't use it to charge a battery. So I'm going to have a go at trying to explain in a nice simple way how that is not necessarily the case. So we'll start by looking at maximum torque. So maximum torque is when you've got essentially as much air. This is our engine cylinder, so sort of an idea, a cartoon image of an engine cylinder. So if we want maximum torque, we have to put as much air as we can into our cylinder, and then once you've done that, you can put as much fuel in as to match the amount of air, essentially, because this ratio has to be kept. So if you've got lots of air, you can put in lots of fuel. But if you don't want lots of power and torque and all the rest of it, then you have to put in less fuel. But that means you have to also put in less air because you have to keep that mixture the same. So we've got less fuel here, and the way that traditionally people that make engines restrict the amount of air is to put a throttle in. So we've got loads of air from the outside, from the atmosphere. It meets this restriction and it gets throttled, and then our cylinder doesn't put much air in, and consequently we don't have to put much fuel in. But throttling causes wasted fuel. So the engine actually has to do work to overcome this restriction. That's also known as a pumping loss, and it's essentially like the engine is breathing through a straw. So if you imagine breathing through a straw, it's a lot harder. You're going to have to work harder to breathe than if you don't have that straw. So wide open throttle, maximum torque is actually more efficient because you're not doing work to overcome this vacuum. But the problem is that with a traditional powertrain, you put all that available engine torque into the transmission and you drive the wheels, and you might end up that you don't always want to be driving around at maximum torque because you might want to go slowly. And the same could be said with braking. So on a traditional car, you're going really fast. When you want to slow down, you put heat into your brakes and that will slow your car down. But that heat is just wasted energy. So with a hybrid, what if you could keep your engine running efficiently? So we're in this maximum torque, we're filling our cylinder, we've not got any throttle restriction, and we're putting loads of fuel in, but we don't want all of that torque to go to the wheels. So we can divert some of the torque. So you can see here in this diagram, lots of our torque is getting diverted into the battery, and some of it goes to the wheels so that we drive slowly, and that's how we control the torque to the wheels. So yeah, if we don't need all that torque because we're going slowly, we can store the excess in the battery. And then after we've put in a reasonable amount into the battery, we can actually just switch off the engine and then start to trickle out the energy from the battery to keep ourselves driving. So we get to operate our engine in a more efficient regime, and then we get to switch it off. And of course, I'm sure most of you have heard of the term regenerative braking. So that means that instead of wasting kinetic energy and turning that into heat, we can use the motor that powers the wheel, we can turn it into a generator that creates electrical charge, and we can charge up the battery, and that essentially applies a load to the wheels, which slows the car down. So it has the same effect as braking, but we get to keep some of that kinetic energy and store it in the battery again. Okay, that's it. Hopefully that was instructive for you, and you can see why hybrids are actually quite useful.